West Side, like, did you have to audition for Snow White, or like, oh, they saw you in West Side Story, they're like, you're Snow White?
West Side Story was kind of nowhere near coming out. We were about like 6 months away from release, and no footage had been seen. And I actually got a really glowing recommendation from Steven Spielberg to Mark Webb, who directed Snow White, saying that, and I also got a text from Steven kind of alluding to the fact that I had gotten the part before I had found out.
Snow White has arrived, much awaited, and things are not looking great. The audience is furious, the critics are confused, and the numbers simply make no sense. Simply said, Disney is thinking about starting to rethink its live-action remakes, but what specifically went wrong? It might have been the political overtones, the casting, or it might have been simply another soulless effort at profit. Let's carefully break it apart. Snow White is not doing well in terms of reception. Yikes. With a dismal 46% of viewers rating it above a 5, it is safe to say this movie is struggling. To tell the truth, I expected critics to love it. After all, it is a modernized and socially conscious take on a classic, but instead it is making its debut with one of the worst Rotten Tomatoes scores for any live-action Disney remake, and it is not only Rotten Tomatoes. On IMDb, it gets a terrible 2.1, and Google's reviews are even more negative at 1.4. It's not a minor issue. This is a historically controversial situation, since Snow White has been thrown into an identity crisis and deprived of her fairy tale appeal. Snow White's lack of direction on her future is the most important grievance. On the one hand, some people feel that it is unduly progressive since it combines modern ideas that seem out of place. Conversely, some contend that it falls short of pushing the envelope enough. The last output is a film that nobody finds appealing. Critics have characterized it as a strange mix of two opposing ideas, one aiming to be a traditional fairy tale and another a fully developed political allegory. With talks on class struggle, wealth redistribution, and a forced peasant revolt, it is among the most blatantly political Disney movies of recent years. Even the BBC, well known for its political reinterpretations, considered it to be extreme, characterizing it as a direct political reimagining, hardly like the original. Surely let us also discuss the dwarves. Oh, hang on, apologies. Going forward, we are not even meant to call them by that name. Originally taken out of the film, they were uncomfortably added back in response to criticism, producing an odd and inconsistent story. Apart from acting as a diversity checkbox, they have no actual value in the story, and their presence is difficultly justified overall in the movie. Though Snow White's story revolves on the original 7 dwarves, this rendition of the tale makes them seem to be an afterthought, thrown in as a half-hearted attempt to handle controversy. I will always find the music beautiful, the dialogues are awkward, and the performances are clumsy. Let's just say, for debate's sake, Rachel Zegler's Snow White portrayal could be among the most controversial choices ever taken. Disney clearly showed no interest in maintaining the magic of the past, from the contemptuous remarks she made about the original movie to the way she presents herself in this new one. Rather, their emphasis was on making a statement, and viewers are totally rejecting it. Not even the decent reviews seem able to offer a strong case for it. The last product is dead and uninspired. The worst part is that not only conservatives or classic Disney buffs are complaining about, even progressive critics, who usually support these kinds of modern interpretations, are labeling it as a mess. Though some try to characterize it as bold and aspirational, they acknowledge that the end result is lifeless and uninspired. You correctly have it. Disney was trying to win over the same audience that is breaking apart right now. How comes? Mostly because you will produce a film devoid of any soul if you build something just on the basis of ideology instead of storytelling. If this movie shows anything, it's evidence that Hollywood's obsession with rewriting the past isn't working. You won't win people over by demolishing beloved classics. It's a story meant to appeal to an audience that doesn't even like it. You accomplish this by knowing what it was that first made them so outstanding. Disney still fails in this area time and time again. They take beloved properties, strip them of their original heart, and inject the same tired messaging. Every time they do this, they seem surprised when viewers react poorly. They accomplish this with The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan and Wendy, and now Snow White is the most recent victim of their relentless need to modernize everything. Worse still is their ongoing behavior with Snow White. Disney seems to have learned nothing from past mistakes. They keep creating remakes, using hundreds of millions of dollars on initiatives devoid of soul and creativity. It is about telling stories, rather than only about looking back. Audiences want real emotion, interesting characters, and a cause to care, yet what they consistently find is a checklist of progressive ideas approved by different companies that feel more like virtue signaling than actual storytelling. Let's not forget the budget catastrophe that is currently under progress. Disney reportedly spent more than $250 million on this movie, not including the expenses of marketing it. Snow White reports show it must thus make almost $500 million just to break even, but given such a negative reception, it is hard to see how it even gets near to that. Moreover, given the growing number of viewers opting to skip Disney's most recent productions, we might be witnessing yet another significant box office collapse. Apart from financial problems, Disney is having artistic challenges as well. Visually, Snow White is boring, the computer-generated imagery is overdone, and the film lacks the charm that made the first one an all-time classic. The amazing hand-drawn animations that were once rather common have replaced cinematography devoid of inspiration and a color palette that seems dead and washed out. Once a trademark of Disney's magic, even its costumes seem uninspired and boring. Disney seems to have totally forgotten how to tell a story. Instead of stressing character development and adventure, they give messaging top priority over magic, and the audience has observed this difference. People go to the movies to escape, to be transported to other worlds, and to interact with characters that feel real and compelling, not to get lectured. Snow White falls short of all these criteria, though. The aftermath of this movie reflects a growing tiredness among committed fans as well as casual viewers, not limited by the ratings it got from critics or the box office earnings. Right now, social media is trending a lot of memes mocking the tone, images, and contradictions of the movie. Longtime Disney fans are showing great discontent not only with this movie but also with the direction the business is headed. Merchandising sales are declining, involvement is dropping, and brand confidence is starting to erode. Disney seems to be at a crossroads as well. Should they stop and consider the reasons behind the success of their original stories in the first place? Or should they keep on this path of hyper-modernization in which every character is reimagined via a socio-political lens? Actually, the success of Disney's P was more a result of the universal values those stories communicated than of the animation or the songs. Among these were love, compassion, bravery, and sacrifice. These are the subjects that are resonant across generations right now. Disney is handling its legacy as though it were something to be embarrassed of rather than something to celebrate. Ironically, they have lost appeal to everyone in their attempts to make their stories more inclusive and modern. Inclusivity is about honoring the past, and so creating a better future instead of eradicating it. But this movie does not do. Rather, it demolishes and deconstructs the past, and worst of all, ignores entertainment value. Thus, is this the last nail in the coffin for Disney's live-action remakes, or will they keep focusing on these soulless and hollow imaginations? At this point, it seems as though they are adamant in their will to keep down this road regardless of the number of box office bombs they rack up. The question that has to be answered is when they will decide to learn. People are not interested in getting these modernized versions of classic films based on the comments and opinions of the audience, and they want movies with good stories, characters they can connect with, and characters they can relate to rather than ones that fit a modern agenda by distorting the source material. Disney had the chance to produce something very amazing through Snow White, but in the current entertainment scene where viewers are more vocal than they have ever been, this is the ultimate failure. Instead, Disney produced something easily forgotten. What then are your impressions on this? Are we looking at the worst Disney remake ever produced? If you thought this breakdown was fun, write me a note in the comments area below. Make sure to like, subscribe to our channel, and keep tuned for more.